Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, thank you for joining us for Ask Rob and Rob, where we've got another couple of cracking questions from our listeners that we're going to be doing our very best to answer for you. But before we get to those, Rob, if someone's got a burning question of their own, how do they send that our way?
Well, as we've never mentioned this before, we better tell you. The number you want to call is 013-808-00035, or you can go to thepropertyhub.net/ask and get your questions into us that way. Super simple. Obviously so, because every single week we have plenty of questions to go through. This week's no different. First up, we've got Mitch from Glasgow.
Hi, Rob and Rob. This is Mitch from Glasgow. Thank you so much for your podcast. You always provide such great information. I have a question about ROI calculations, the cost of borrowing, and timing, and would love your take. Just as a bit of background, I'm a first-time investor with a goal to buy 10 properties in 10 years, with a view to build an additional income stream and diversify my retirement pension. I've calculated it'll take my husband and I about 2 years to save up to purchase our first buy-to-let. However, we have quite a bit of equity built up in our own home, and we can release more equity and still keep our loan-to-value at about 50%. But we recently remortgaged and are up against an early repayment penalty. I'm curious how you calculate an ROI, factoring in this or other lending charges. Option A is to remortgage now, and we can release £35,000 with a £4,400 penalty. We can use that money to purchase a rental right away and start getting an income stream, and then continue to purchase for a second property in a couple of years. We can get into a new mortgage with a rate not too dissimilar to what we currently have. Option B is to wait several years to remortgage, when we can release maybe £40,000 and not pay a penalty. We can continue to save in the meantime and should have enough to buy 2 properties in about 30 months. We save on the early repayment charges, but we miss out on purchasing a property and then the rental income in the meantime. So I'm wondering how you would analyze the options. And if you were in a similar situation, which option would you choose? Or is there a possible third option? If you choose option B, which is where we wait to do anything for a few years, what would you recommend I do in the meantime to prepare? Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question, Mitch. Okay, quite a dilemma here, but you can pretty much solve this dilemma with a bit of maths. So if you release that $35,000 now, it's going to cost you £4,400, and that's going to save you basically 2 years, you reckon. So the calculation then is, are you going to make more than £4,400 in 2 years if you do it now compared to waiting? If your rental income and your capital growth over that period is going to be lower than £4,500, then clearly it's not worth doing. If it's higher than that, then it might well be. Now, the rental profit part you should be able to calculate pretty accurately. The capital growth is going to be a little bit more of a guess, but you should be able to look at what property prices in your area are doing and have an educated guess about what kind of return you're going to make.
That's right, but even if you just look on rental income alone, and you said, right, on your 35k, you're going to make maybe a 5% return on investments, then over a couple of years, you're looking at £3,500, which is nearly your 4-4 covered. So even the tiniest uplift in capital growth, and a smidgen, will break you even. And if you improve on that 5% ROI, or capital growth ends up being a little bit more generous to you, then you could significantly smash through that 4-4 cost and do a lot better. So while it may not be completely clear-cut, I'd say it's certainly leaning towards do it. But ultimately, Mitch, it's up to yourself. You've got to be confident. So start doing your research, start looking at the area, start looking at the capital growth trends in that area, start looking at the ROI potential, and make your decision based on that.
Okay, next up is a question from Jeff, who's in our good books, because he's asking about one of our very favourite subjects.
Hi guys, it's Jeff from London. I'm loving the show. Keep up the great work. So my question, I hope you don't mind, is a 3-part one. Where is the UK as a whole in the property cycle, and why do you think that? And then when do you see the next distinctive markers coming up in the property cycle in the future? Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Jeff, are you trying to set up a spoiler for Thursday? Because this Thursday, we're actually going to answer this question. I'm going to look at where the UK is in the cycle right now, and of course explain why we think that. We're going to link it to some economic cycles as well outside the 18-year property cycle. And we're going to talk about important years along that journey too. So while we may not be answering your question today, it means that we know we've got one guaranteed listener for Thursday. So Jeff, make sure you turn up, because we're going to cover this all in a lot more depth. It's going to be a great episode. A 2-day delay is not too bad, Rob, is it?
In the context of 18 years, I don't think it's too bad at all. So that's us done for today. Thank you for listening. We will be back with that episode on Thursday, so we look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.